Mm. Here we go, and we're live. Welcome, everyone, to today's LinkedIn Live from Gain. I'm Zoe Kambuzi, and I'm thrilled to have Skip Kimpel here today. He's our new Global Director of Restaurant Technology and Innovation, super important. And he's with us to discuss emerging technologies shaping the future of hospitality. Welcome, Skip.
Well, thank you, Zoe. I appreciate you having me on the show.
Fantastic. So I'm actually really excited today because when we talk about emerging technologies, the first thing we think of is AI, and we've spoken about AI, on the live, and AI is all over our LinkedIn feeds. But I know that today we're going to talk about some other types of emerging technologies. So stay tuned, everybody. But first of all, Skip, could you tell us a bit about your background and also what excites you most about these emerging technologies?
Absolutely. So my background really is from the food and beverage side of hospitality. I grew up as a CIO in multiple restaurant brands across the United States. I got to a point where I decided, you know what, the politics, the change management, there's too much stress on that side. So I moved into the consulting side and take all of my knowledge that I learned as an operator to consulting. And I think that's a key aspect as being an advisor or a consultant, just to have that practical experience. But at the same time, I've always had a passion for XR, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So recently, I decided to take my two passions of XR and hospitality and merge the two worlds together. I think through my experience through organizations such as the VR AR Association, I saw what was being done in other verticals. And let's all admit it, restaurants and hotels, we tend to be about 10 years behind in regards to technology. However, there are some major advantages that the industry is not taking advantage of to provide cost savings opportunities and also operational efficiencies. And I think that's really where this comes into play. And I feel like this is the right point and the right time to bring these two worlds together. Innovation is really key at this point.
It really is. It's really key. And we've spoken about before in this episode as well, the adoption curve and how it's super important at this point, how we're evolving to kind of decide which train you're going to jump on, but jump on it because, things are moving fast.
Yes.
So could you give us a little bit of a lowdown about what the sort of key emerging technologies are for you at this point in innovation?
Sure. And, I do want to state that part of my position with Gain Advisors as the Global Director of Restaurant Technology Innovation is not only all of these disruptive technologies we're about to talk about in this episode, but also being able to provide my expertise and leverage from the food and beverage side to help hotels turn their loss leaders into profit centers and become more creative and find ways that the restaurants have scrambled, specifically during COVID, to find ways to really make more money. And obviously, you want to keep your guests on property, which is critical. So I think there's many opportunities. But today we're here to talk about some of the disruptive technology, which I also have a passion for. I mentioned XR earlier. XR is nothing more than an umbrella term for virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality. It is, it's really talking about all of these new immersive areas of this new realm of technology that we're starting to see grow. Obviously, AI is a critical piece, and really the future. Someday we'll do a future episode about XR plus AI is the ultimate future because it involves not just static or immersive opportunities, but it involves machine learning and AI interactive elements to actually interact with you while you're in those immersive environments. I think from a restaurant and a hotel perspective, the biggest opportunity out there I am seeing right now and has been our biggest interest level is virtual reality training. It really is the low-lying fruit and what I consider almost the gateway drug into XR. The ROI on virtual training is ridiculous. The numbers are like 60% higher retention rate, a reduction of 60 to 70% cost to train an employee. You can train an employee 4 times faster. It is fascinating to see these numbers. And everything that I really try to do within the industry, as far as my consulting and advisory background, is to save restaurants money. I'm not walking in there to have them spend more money, but let's find ways to make and use technology and leverage it to make companies more efficient, reduce costs, and really accelerate the brand the way they need to be.
Yeah, fantastic. And I can imagine that also, I mean, staff that know what they're doing and feel they're being invested in and feel that they're being equipped to do their job properly, also staff that will stay. So we're also addressing like turnover rates and obviously the famous staffing issue that the entire industry is facing at the moment.
Well, and it's interesting too, because you see a lot of training platforms really moving towards a TikTok style of training, very short segments. It is the environment that we live in, as far as the employees that we're bringing on to our organizations. But now you're bringing VR training, which is actually, a VR headset, easily adaptable to this new generation of people. They understand it, they get it, and they're in a real world environment using a digital twin of the actual location. So it becomes fun, it becomes gamified. And I think that's some of the reason behind the higher retention rates, or the higher knowledge of retention rates. And also the ability to go through modules quicker, because they're not just sitting there watching a video and clicking yes and multiple choice question. They're actually physically doing muscle memory movements of certain operations.
Right. Yeah, when we're engaged with a task, we retain it better and we enjoy it more. So that sounds fantastic. Can you give kind of like so we're in the training, I'm a trainee, I put on the headset. What kind of scenarios would I come up with? You said you would actually sort of move your body as well, so you have muscle memory. How does that work?
Well, and I'll relate 2 different sides of it. I'll relate to the restaurant side and the hotel side. So I think there's really 2 aspects to it. Training on equipment, maybe on the PMS system or the POS system for the restaurants, being able to punch in a transaction, being able to check in a guest, all of that stuff that you usually have a manager hanging over your shoulder watching. This will be actually interactive, where you're walking through it and you're in the real world, the immersive world. You're actually walking through these exercises. I think probably the most important piece is the behavioral aspects and the soft skill training that you can gain from this. For instance, we're working with a company that has these behavior modules where right now they're static questions. It helps teach brand etiquette, how to deal with a customer. However, we're starting to build out features and functionality using face tracking. So you take that data from your facial and pump it back into your LMS. A lot can be said in your face when you're dealing with a customer. There's ways to say I'm sorry, and there's ways to say I'm sorry and really mean it. And those subtle little things are items that guests really pick up on. And obviously the ultimate idea here is to really create that perfect guest experience that makes a memorable time for them and they want to come back. I often kid about, sometimes restaurants, your experience is almost more important than the food. Obviously you have to have good quality food, but from a experience level, the one thing you walk away from is, man, that server was great. They did such a fantastic job, and they were checking on me as, I wanted to be served. So all of those things can really be built into this environment. Now, what we're also finding interesting is by taking all of this data that we're bringing in through the facial tracking and also voice, we're able to analyze somebody going through training to possibly determine the best place for them within the restaurant or the hotel. Maybe they're not the best front desk person or front of house person. Maybe they have, maybe are better suited in another location within your hotel or your restaurant. So some very interesting data and statistics coming from virtual reality training.
Wow. That's a lot. That is a lot of data that you're getting there. Yeah. So in this way, we're really using this technology to sort of transform the guest experience that are walking through the door in terms of a hotel or a restaurant, and getting people, like you said, I love that that we're actually training people on soft skills as well. And it's not, sorry, it's my first day. Sorry, it's my first day. It's like, actually, it's not my first day because I've had all this training. And I've been able to be assessed by my managers and coached and encouraged as well. So that must be, massive for staff actually, as well as managers.
It is. Plus, we're building out like AI modules where you actually have a theoretical guest in front of you that's prompted by, and you have an AI conversation with that AI bot. So you're thrown into scenarios which either are potentially confrontational or just, brand standards of what needs to be done. That can all be built into that model in order to be able to really gauge that entire experience with your guest.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned brand standards actually, because I'm thinking about the possibilities for these global brands that, you can do this one training and you can have that rolled out literally across all your thousands of hotels across the globe and have it really standardized. Make sure that you've got that backed up properly and approved. That's pretty powerful.
Well, and to that point, you don't have to send teams of people to a hotel location. You can send a bunch of headsets. And once again, people kind of envision an immersive training experience to be a solo experience where the potential employee is just by themselves in this environment. While that can be the case, there are opportunities as well to bring other people into that virtual environment and be able to interact. A manager can be watching on an iPad and actually see what that person's seeing and how they're acting and be able to make corrective measures at that time. So there is a little bit of a misconception where it's just like set it and forget it. You send them a headset and they go through their training, it's checked off. There are many other aspects to it to make sure that that experience and the training is properly being followed.
Yeah, and as you said, it could be somebody from the other side of the world checking in on the training. So
absolutely,
have your favorite implementation specialist. Well, just get them in the virtual space. Love it.
Yep.
So we've talked about all these amazing possibilities, but obviously, we're not quite there with technology at the moment, and it can be challenging occasionally. So what strategies do you sort of recommend for hotels who are thinking about implementing any of the above?
Well, I think the most important part is to team up with an advisor or a group that really has this background and this knowledge in order to walk you through this experience. There are so many elements to it and a lot of discovery that needs to be had. I'm sitting here at a conference this week and everybody's talking about their infrastructure and how, they're trying to just get their infrastructure up to speed, literally up to speed. And what we're finding is, you want to throw in a VR training program, or for instance, you want to, there's so many opportunities for hotels, immersive experiences at the spa, being able to put on a headset where you're having a completely out of world experience while you're enjoying your spa environment, or AI-based concierge, or using VR for resort tours or event planning. But all of this requires bandwidth. It all requires, a lot of planning and opportunity to really bring in all the elements that you need to make it be effective. You don't want to throw technology at something for the sake of technology. You want to be able to provide a really useful use case scenario to make sure that you're getting the ROI for what you're investing in. So really, I would have to say, team up with somebody that knows what they're doing and can help create that strategy plan for you. And number two, you have to be thinking about infrastructure and security as well.
Yeah, super important. And I think, when you're implementing any new type of technology, it's always a good opportunity for your brand, for your business to reassess what's going on. What is going on with my brand standards? Maybe we need to revisit that. What is going on with my training? Do we need to revisit that? I mean, it's always an opportunity to do that, right? And as you said, not just throwing technology in something, expecting it to work. It takes kind of integral, company-wide change for the better. So yeah. Okay, classic question. Balancing technology and the human touch. I can't have this live without asking you that, because it's something that comes up in 90% of conversations, the worry that it really will replace humans. What do you say, Skip?
Well, I got a couple different viewpoints on that. One's popular, one's not popular. Literally having this conversation at a table yesterday, and I think the entire world is dealing with this issue of finding people. I, Not that they don't want to work, but we live in this gig economy where the commitment to one organization necessarily isn't there. So I think creating some opportunities to really engage your employee is super important. Now, when it comes down to hospitality, obviously one of the main points is the human touch. I think we can leverage technology to kind of remove some of the redundant activities that technology could replace. For instance, I was standing at the front desk yesterday. There was one person there, and this is a very fancy resort. They spent 10 or 15 minutes with a person trying to find them the proper room. Technology could have been used in some way, shape, or form for that, while they could help another guest, or maybe that guest that just simply had a question could walk up to a kiosk and quickly get an answer, or walk up to let's get crazy here, a hologram version of a concierge, and actually have a conversation and get the questions answered that they need. So I think technology can be leveraged to remove all of the redundant areas, but and I can speak from the restaurant side, and this is where it gets kind of unpopular. There are opportunities. It costs a lot of money, and restaurants are really struggling because not only the food costs, but also the employee costs as well. So labor is a big issue, and there are opportunities to implement robotic kitchen equipment to help. Once again, with menial tasks, the fryer in the back of the kitchen doesn't necessarily need to be performed by a human. It can be performed by a robot. Now, are you removing a job? Potentially, but I think there's also an opportunity to level up skill sets or bring in a different type of person that needs to be able to maintain, watch, interact with these robots to make sure they're actually performing the way they need to. And if it does break, quickly get it back up and running. So
Absolutely.
definitely have two sides to that. You're seeing in restaurants a lot of kiosks being placed out there, and that's really while some restaurants won't admit to replace people, it's meant to replace people.
Yeah. I always find it interesting when you hear about high-end luxury saying they don't want to replace their staff with any kind of technology. And then you think, well, do your high-paying customers really want to wait 10 minutes to be set? Like, that's not a great guest experience for the money you're paying. So it sometimes doesn't really make sense. Yeah.
Well, and I think that's where it comes down to. Before you jump into any technology, no matter if it's the shiny penny or not, you need to really sit back and look at your strategy. You need to understand the profile of your guests from both restaurants and hotels. You need to understand what they want and what they're looking for. There is a hotel brand that I did some work for where they were just business people that would want just a place to sleep at night, but wanted high tech, the fastest internet, but they wanted to be able to walk in, really not interact with anybody, and walk up to a kiosk, check in, and go to the room, get some sleep, get some work done. Simple as that. Other people want to be handheld along the process, and that's really understanding, once again, who your customer is, and then building technology around to help supplement some of those aspects of those touch points. Now, technology can be used to increase touch points as well. For instance, don't consider hospitality just a human-to-human experience, but consider it to be when you check in, your profile is known. They know what temperature they want in the room. By the time you check in, the lights are on at a level that you like. The temperature is already set to a temperature that you want. There's a plethora of things that you can do and use technology to help increase that memorable experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's so much. So we've spoken about some of the possibilities today. Let's look a little bit into the future, sort of 5 to 10 years time. Where do you think we're going in terms of the next evolution of emerging technologies? Anything on the horizon?
Well, I think that's I was listening to a keynote yesterday talking about the future of technologies and the future of hotels, and that dystopian view of what a hotel is going to look like. I do know that there are organizations that already have some of this technology in place. It might not be as visible yet, but I mean, you start to go into very experimental countries like Dubai that really wants to take the next level of experience, and they're willing to play around and see what works and what doesn't work. But I think it, a hotel tech individual CIO has so much to deal with from every level that there's not a lot of time. And this is not just hotels; they don't have a lot of time to really get out there, go to the shows and experiment with technology. It's great to have a good sales pitch, but at the end of the day, if it doesn't meet your needs, it doesn't meet your needs. For instance, Gain Advisors. I mean, we go to, I think I was at 15 shows last year or this year even. So we're constantly looking at new technology. We're looking at what's out there. Some of it's real, some of it's not real. And I think that's also an important piece of this puzzle. AI is a perfect example of being smoke and mirrors and Wizard of Ozing, as I like to call it. We are now at a point where AI is real. I think the models and the infrastructure and the technology have become easier to get access to. So where AI was kind of being faked in the background before, they actually are able to implement some of this stuff now. But easy to get hooked into something that looks real and it isn't real and isn't going to suit your needs. But once again, even from an AI strategy, that's a big piece. I get the question all the time about, hey, can you help us? Our C-level staff came to us and said, can we create or what's our AI strategy? And AI strategy isn't throwing a new AI product at a problem. It's really sitting down, just like a discovery with a strategy roadmap, sitting down with all the departments, even the leadership, figuring out where growth, where that's going to come from. Is it from international? Is it from franchisees? Is it from organic growth? And what areas are we trying to solve for? First of all, I think that's the biggest problem is people throw AI at a problem that they think it's going to fix, but they don't understand the true need or have defined what success looks like. And they end up with all these disparate systems. And I think COVID really was also an issue for that, where people threw technology at stuff just to stay alive. And they ended up with all of this technology that was either redundant or it really wasn't needed. So my cautionary tale is just to have somebody by your side, maybe as a trusted advisor, just to help you along the path to make sure that you are making the right decisions. And somebody that really knows this area of the business.
Right. Yeah, got you. It's difficult to stay ahead of all the technologies as a hotelier. I can't imagine they have so much to deal with. So yeah, absolutely.
Well, and quite honestly, that's the power of Gain. It's not really a pitch for Gain, but it's the truth. And this is why I joined this organization, is because there is a plethora of talent that we have within the organization. So if we get involved in a project that is outside of my particular expertise level, I can tap almost anybody in the company that does have experience in that area and bring them in on the project to make sure that our customer is actually being served the way they need to be and have the proper expertise behind those decisions.
That's right. It's a super powerful network. I've seen that in action as well with clients that have come in. It's pretty awesome. So yeah. Well, I think that's great advice there, Skip. So I would say to the audience, if any of what you've heard today you'd like to know more, obviously you can contact Skip. You can contact me, either Russ on LinkedIn. You can contact any of the Gain advisors to find out about emerging technologies or anything else we've mentioned today. And yeah, just like to thank you for this great talk. I think we will have a part 2 though at some point.
Oh, there's a lot more to talk about. We haven't even touched augmented reality. We haven't talked about mixed reality. Yeah, there's more to come.
There's a lot. We've just scratched the surface, but it's a truly exciting area. So I'm looking forward to seeing the developments and the conversations. Thanks so much, Skip.
Thanks, Zoe. I appreciate your time.
Have a great day. Cheers.